One of the biggest challenges is, yeah, and I keep referring back to it because it's such an important topic, and even more so in Asia, I believe, is on the cybersecurity front, data protection. Unlike Europe, where you have GDPR, for example, and in GDPR UK, which was still, there's a lot of similarities there. In Asia, we have fragmented cybersecurity laws, right? Every country, every jurisdiction has their own. Some of them more complicated than others, and in order to comply with all those regulations, that requires a lot of resources and investments. It's complex, right? Because each jurisdiction has its own sort of regulations. PDPA in Singapore, China's data protection laws, Vietnam, Indonesia, they all have their own cybersecurity laws. And keeping up with that, I think that's one of the huge challenges in Asia. Another one is the level of investments that you do in Asia are typically more challenging to justify than if you would be in a, let's say, more a higher cost jurisdiction, right? Like in the US or in Europe. But even within Asia, you have Singapore and Hong Kong, where cost levels are very different than in countries like Cambodia or Indonesia and Malaysia. So in order to keep investing in new technologies, keep up with innovation, but also on the cybersecurity front, getting the levels of investments that are required to meet the expectations and the needs of this continuously changing business environment is sometimes pretty challenging, because it's easier sometimes to throw 100 people at something than invest in what's perceived to be expensive technology system. And that's typical for Asia, I think.